Greetings, this is Module 4, Video 5 of building an iOS app with C#. In this video we are going to design and build our delay service. So let's create the contract. Now as far as services go, this is going to be by far the simplest, because all we really need to be able to do is delay asynchronously. So we need to tell it how long to delay for, and we need to be able to cancel it if necessary. We can make that an optional parameter. Optional argument, I should say. So that's it for our interface. And the reason we need this, if you think about what will happen in the model when we need to, for example, give a metronome style feedback system to the user where you've got dings and ticks every so often. Each ding and tick will obviously use an audio or use the audio service that we'll write later. But then between each ding and tick we need to delay, and we obviously don't want a block while we're doing that. And moreover, when we want to test that model, we want to make sure that we're not delaying, so we need to provide a mock delay service that doesn't actually do any delaying. But let's start with the real implementation. So all we need to do here is just use wait for Xamarin to catch up. Task already has a delay helper on it, which we can use. Give it the duration, give it the cancellation token. And beyond that, all we want to do is configure this to not continue on the captured context. If you've not seen this before, by default when you await a task, it will capture the context on which it was running before it awaits, and it will return to that context when it's done. We don't need to do that in the service layer. We don't need to do that in the model layer either. The only place we really care about continuing on the captured context would be in the user interface layer, where we want to make sure we continue on the UI thread after we've done some asynchronous work. Well, we may as well make this async and actually await that. Now this configure await thing that I was just talking about, I really hate the design of it. I'm not sure it should have been the default to continue on the captured context. I'm not sure I like the way they've designed this particular API. I mean, you're never really going to call this with anything other than false. It perhaps should have been an enumeration. That's why I always specify the parameter here, just so it's clear what this false actually means. But actually I'm tempted to create my own extension method. I don't know what I'd call it at this point, maybe continue on any context, like that, so we don't have to, so it reads better and it's shorter as well. We don't have to specify any arguments. What the hey, I may as well do that. So configure await, I will put it in the same namespace as configure await, which is, there's another Xamarin Studio bug. You have to do this twice to get it to go to the right place. We are in system threading tasks, so let's add a utility. Under system threading tasks. Oops. And we can just call this task extensions. Needs to be static, of course. and we need to make sure we're in the right namespace here. So what do we want to call it? Continue on any context. We'll take a task. So configure await doesn't actually return a task, it returns a configurable task awaiter. Did I get that right? No, configured task awaitable. Now there is a generic version of this so that we can have an overload for task of T as well. Which is going to look exactly the same. But let's just be careful that we're not calling, we're not invoking this against a null pointer, null reference. Okay, so now we should just be able to call this. Just a bit nicer to look at, a bit clearer. We don't need our constructor here. So that's it really for the delay service. The other thing I'll do in this video, just because we know we're going to need it, and by the way, I'm not going to bother testing this, it's just, I mean, what's the point? And we don't want any tests that actually delay anyway. So, but what I will do is create a mock implementation of this because we know we're going to need this later on when we're testing other components that depend on the delay service. Okay, so there we go. All we're doing is with a loose delay service, we're making sure that it always returns a completed task whenever you call delay async. So it's just going to complete straight away. No asynchronous work being done at all. No time wasting. So this will be perfect for testing purposes. I'm somewhat tempted to make the default behavior here loose because we're always going to use a loose one as far as I can tell. But I'd rather just have consistency here because my other mocks default to strict. I'll just default this one to strict as well. Okay, cool. So that is it for the delay service. I will catch you on the other side. Cheers.